A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Could I firstly thank NFU Cymru for the invitation for Wales YFC to once again contribute to this session. We have heard from the rest of the panel this afternoon their thoughts on Welsh farming, food at the heart of our future. I have the pleasure of sweeping up and hopefully not repeating too much. One thing is for certain, our industry has never been before in such a situation of uncertainty. It has stood against many a challenge over the years, from Blue Tongue, Smallenberg, Foot to Mouth, BSC and the likes. But the threat of loss of markets and trade options with the EU for what we produce is an ever-increasing worry. With the huge threat of our market being swamped by cheap imports produced on a system which has nothing close to our top quality regulated products here in Wales, if agriculture is used as a pawn, we can only hope that a decision is made soon. Our industry needs to know what to plan for. Now, I believe there is a mountain to climb with consumer engagement. We need to sell our story better and deliver the virtues of Welsh produce and the Welsh brand. The line we heard this morning, consumers have never cared more nor known less how their food is produced. Social media is a key player these days. You can engage with the masses from the comfort of your sofa, with agricultural story often told well, but sadly I don't think it's enough. Hand-on initiatives are so important, such as Open Farm Sunday, agricultural shows, Cows on Tour and the like. Recently, thanks to funding through the NFU Charitable Trust, Wales YFC was able to purchase educational material and launch our Farm Quest programme, where you can get young people educated and well informed about farming, materials that are used in several YFC events, as well as the 12 counties and 168 clubs throughout Wales. This is the way to combat the stereotype farming sometimes is made to look like, and ensure that if someone wants to engage, that we have the tools to engage with them. But there is more each and every person who lives and works for this industry can do. If all the keyboard warrior farmers of Facebook and the likes engage positively, face-to-face with the consumer, it would reap rewards. It's an ever-changing world with consumer trends changing all the time, and of course, eating habits. Now, I have no problem with a person choosing to eat whatever they want, as long as that decision is made on sound and correct information. The number of people wishing to stop eating meat because they think cows and sheep are killing the planet because they burp a lot, yes, are sadly in great numbers. Little do they consider the miles their avocado, rice or kiwi fruit has travelled when they tuck into it, and how that cow and ewe is regenerating pastures and enhancing the environment, as well as producing food. We now have several documents and promos to highlight the health benefits, etc., of eating Welsh beef and lamb. For instance, like what Mr. Roberts mentioned before from HCC. These are the tools we need to, as producers, to sell our story smartly, to ensure consumers are well informed. Carbon footprint, air quality and water quality. Something we are all well versed in by now, thanks to the Welsh Government Brexit and our land consultation. One I, along with many others, wait with interest to seeing the outcomes of. These are something we must embrace. Food production and the environment come hand in hand. It has done for generations, long before any of us got here. But with advances constantly in science and knowledge, we can farm more effectively than ever. And we need to be. The average farmer feeds more people than ever before, with that figure will only increase with global population growth. It still baffles me now, the statistic that there are more humans on this earth now than there have ever died previously. But with the demand of greater efficiency, at the same time care for the environment increasing, we again can use this to what I said earlier about selling our story. It's often forgotten that a properly managed field, whether it be grassland or crop, with the correct pH levels and utilised correctly, has massive carbon storage qualities. We think of caring for the environment as planting trees everywhere. It need not be. Efficient food production and the environment go hand in hand and fit in well as food at the heart of our future. And talking of future, I mentioned earlier advances in science and knowledge. Technology is a key player now, and its influence will only increase in the industry. I realise tech is something quite alien to some generations, but from my perspective, speaking for young people, it's a tool we can utilise very effectively to aid operations and make informed decisions based on facts. With a threat to migrant workers and the likes in the current climate, technology will fill the gap to keep things going. But of course, technology cannot do everything. We still need bodies on the ground and care and nurture growing produce, rearing animals and enhancing our surroundings. I can only urge the importance of investment into research and development, not only as a whole industry, but on an individual farm basis also, to upskill individuals and ensure we are all well versed on the latest findings and practices. And most importantly, if you do learn something new, share your findings and collaborate with your fellow farmers. We are all in this together and can learn from each other. It is a different approach, I know. We are, as farmers, are notorious for bottling everything up and keeping everything as private as possible. Use the recent red meat benchmarking scheme, for example. Out of a possible almost 7,000 businesses eligible, only 1,600 participants in the scheme. Now, I've heard all sorts of reasons, from not wanting them to know what we're doing to it sounds like too much work. A few, of course, are already benchmarking, and I commend them for that. But we cannot keep doing things like we've always done. Our industry is changing massively. We must scrutinise every cost on farm and ensure every enterprise pays its way. Benchmarking is an easy way to compare your business to the rest of the industry. Of course, there are no two farms the same, but many of our practices are identical. So collaborative thinking and sharing ideas will benefit every business who wishes to prosper. As I said before, we must produce more efficiently than ever to feed an ever-growing population. Change is not easy. It's something we resist since it's in our nature. Despite this, we are seeing an increased number of farmers making huge leaps and changes in diversifying or completely changing what they produce. Several have moved into dairying, others ventured into poultry, as well as many opting for tourism or renewables to be their bread and butter. There are several options out there. No, they aren't for everyone. Personally, as a business, we have never diversified, and the farm is ill-suited other than for beef and sheep production. But I do admire those who are bold enough to change practices. We held our 5th Rural Affairs Conference last month down in Gelliad College, which once again an array of speakers and a farm tour and Dumbia workshop to follow. It was fascinating to listen to bold decision makers sharing their experiences. Yes, not every grand plan works out every time, but one dairy farmer, for instance, who was fed up of his milk price, decided to sell raw milk out of a garden shed at the end of his road. It was astounding to learn this change in farm practice saw an income of £80,000 come in through that tiny shed. But he didn't stop there. He invested in a vending machine to save him cost on bottling and turned to cheese making, producing and utilising his produce to the maximum. Another speaker brought a different concept to grazing, showing us the way to utilise electric fencing in a very unique way, maximising grass growth and increasing stocking numbers effectively. This in turn makes the farm more effective and more efficient. The phrase, to be a good livestock farmer, first you need to be a good grassland farmer, demonstrated perfectly. If you have the freedom to change without being forced, then look into it. Sadly, it's not the case for many. Antibiotic usage clamped down in the industry will change several farming practices throughout Wales. Not from wanting, but a must. As difficult as this is, unfortunately, it's necessary. With the general population increasingly not responding to medical vaccines and treatments, we as food producers are under huge pressure to lower our antibiotic usage. But again, if we do it right, then this is furthermore a feather in our cap, an extra reassurance that our produce is fit for consumer needs. Ladies and gents, I've rattled on long enough, but I'll leave you on this. One of the greatest downfalls in an industry is the belief by those who are in it that someone else will fight for it. We must all stand up and do our bit. We are all in the same boat, so let's make sure we are all rowing together. Diolch yn fawr iawn.